Hello, my name's Chris, and I've been a teacher of business and economics for the last 27 years. Today, we're going to look at the circular flow of income. So our learning objectives in this video are to understand what makes up the circular flow, understand what injections into the circular flow are, and understand what withdrawals from the circular flow are. We'll come back to these objectives at the end of the video. So in an economy, a simple economy, we can have households and we can have firms. The households own all the factors of production. So they own land, labour, capital and enterprise. The firms need all these factors of production to operate. So they will need to obtain land from households, obtain labour from the households, obtain some capital from the households for the business to run, and have someone organise and run all that within the firm. In return, households get paid rent for the land or for any property that the firms use. They get paid pay or salary for the work they put into the business or the firm. Dividends, if they invest into the firm, so invest their capital into the firm, a dividend is a return on that investment. And profit, if you're the entrepreneur that is running the business. So we can see that there is an interdependence between households and firms. Firms depend on the factors of production supplied by households, and households require payment for those factors of production. And that will go round and round and round in a circular flow. Between the two, households consume the products that the goods and services that the firms produce, so enabling them to pay using the rent, the pay, the dividends and the profit. So it allows a circular flow to happen. Now, in an economy, so here we've added the banks in to give households an opportunity to save their money. And what the banks do with that money is to lend that money out to firms so that they can invest in their businesses, get interest from those investments, and they pay out interest to the households. So adding to that circular flow. Taking money out in forms of savings is called a withdrawal, and putting money in the forms of investment is an injection into the system. Another entity that can be added to the circular flow is the government. They collect money in from households through taxes, income tax, VAT, car tax, and then they spend that money on the economy and supporting firms to grow. So again, tax is an injection. So things that we could count in government spending, things like building new roads, building new hospitals, building new schools, railways, HS2 is a prime example, and firms will take that money and do the work for the government. The final entity that we've got to factor into our circular flow are other countries. We import goods from other countries and then we export goods to other countries. So if we're importing goods from other countries, we've got to pay out of our circular flow into the other country. So, for example, if we buy trainers that are produced in Vietnam, the money for those trainers goes to Vietnam. So it comes out of our circular flow. So that would be a leakage or a withdrawal from our circular flow. If other countries buy our goods, so perhaps buy our fish, our beef, our whiskey, then we are getting money for those products. And so that's an injection into our circular flow. So there we go, withdrawals and injections. Now, the whole point of government is to grow our economy. One effect they can take advantage of is the multiplier effect. This occurs when initial injection into the economy causes a bigger final increase in national income. So, for example, the money the government are investing in HS2 will pay wages and will pay suppliers for goods such as bricks, gravel, sleepers for the railway, and so on. The workers will spend their wages on goods and services in the economy, and that money will then become the wages for another worker, and so on. So the initial spend will be multiplied out throughout the economy. So here's an example. We've got an we've got an engineer building HS2. She spends her salary in a shop. That shop worker gets paid for working in that shop, and she, in turn, will spend their wages on goods and services. So you can see the money the engineer spends is multiplied out across the economy. And of course, this guy delivering pizza will go and spend his money, and the person that he spends his money will then go and spend their money, and it carries on multiplying out. So the initial investment by the government will cause a far greater growth in the economy than the initial investment. And that's the multiplier effect. It's multiplying that initial outlay across the economy. So growing the circular flow, what we want to have is greater injections than withdrawals. The more money coming in through injections, the greater the circular flow will grow. If there's greater withdrawals than injections, then you will have a negative multiplier effect. So if we have our withdrawals that are greater than injections, circular flow will be reduced. If it's reduced, people are spending less money, and therefore we end up with people losing their jobs because there just simply isn't the income to pay those people. And because they've lost their jobs, they can't spend money, and so on. So we have a negative multiplier effect. So looking at our wider economy, we can see there a picture of Redcar, and you can see the steelworks in the background of the picture. Those steelworks closed down and had a massive impact on the economy of the local town of Redcar, because all the workers were quite well paid within the steelworks, and obviously they then didn't have wages in their pockets, so they couldn't spend them in the shops, bars, restaurants of Redcar, which led to a negative multiplier effect throughout Redcar, and shops shutting down, bars closing, restaurants closing. And so that's an example of a negative multiplier effect. On the flip side, here we have HS2, I've already mentioned it in this video. £56 billion project will create 25,000 jobs during its construction, with an additional 2,000 apprenticeships. Government anticipates up to 100,000 jobs will be generated in the wider economy. So that initial investment, 25,000 jobs in the construction, will generate 100,000 jobs in the wider economy. In other words, in firms that supply goods to HS2 will have jobs created within their departments because HS2 are spending money with them. So that's an example of a positive multiplier effect within the economy. The accelerator effect is easily mixed up with proportionally larger rise in capital investment spending. What that means is a company will invest more than a percentage growth in GDP into their company if they see that the economy is growing. This then feeds back into the aggregate demand, or the demand within the economy, and has a multiplier effect. So for instance, if an economy is growing 2% each year, a business will look at that and think, well, it's pointless to us just investing 2% because the economy is just going to grow again in the following year, so we won't be able to keep up. So they will invest more than 2% so their business keeps slightly ahead of the growth in the economy, so they can spend in more investment than they would have planned. If they don't see that the economy is growing, then there is no point in making your business bigger if the economy is shrinking or staying static. So I mentioned aggregate demand briefly. Aggregate demand is the total demand within the whole economy, and the whole point is we want to grow that. So aggregate demand equals consumption plus investment plus government spending plus exports minus imports. Now, why exports minus imports? Well, exports is money coming into our country. Imports is the money we pay out for the goods that come into our country. So imports is a withdrawal from our system. Exports is an injection. That's a very important equation to learn. So hopefully now you understand what makes up the circular flow of income. Oh, excuse me. And you understand what injections into the circular flow are, and understand what withdrawals are from a circular flow. I hope that's all made sense to you. Please watch the video again. It will help you embed your knowledge on the circular flow. Thank you.